They found him alone, slumped over. No signs of injury, no call for help, just silence. He was 71, a widower, a towel still in one hand, his face frozen in confusion. The cause? Cardiac arrest. For those of us in men's health, it wasn't a mystery. We've seen it before. A quiet, familiar act, one that feels harmless, even comforting. But for some men, it ends in tragedy. Every year, thousands of older men suffer heart attacks, prostate flare-ups, sudden dizziness, or dangerous blood pressure drops, all after doing something they've done their whole lives, morning masturbation. Most never see the connection. They believe it's safe, natural, even healthy, and for younger men, that might be true. But at 60, 70, or 80, the rules change. Your circulation slows, your hormones shift, your heart becomes more sensitive. And what once felt routine can suddenly become risky. And the quiet morning habit that once brought relief can now trigger real harm. I'm Dr. James Ellison, a men's health specialist with over 40 years of experience treating aging men across America. I've had conversations that many doctors avoid. I've looked into the eyes of men who feel ashamed, confused, or just deeply tired. And I've seen how something as private as masturbation, when done carelessly in the morning, can quietly erode a man's strength, confidence, and health without him even noticing. Because habits we picked up decades ago, often in our youth, now silently backfire as we age. They strain the heart, disrupt the prostate, weaken testosterone, and no one ever warns us. But today, I will. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the 5 most dangerous morning masturbation mistakes men over 60 are making, and what each one does to your body, your energy, and your lifespan. You'll understand why one mistake cuts blood flow to your brain, how another weakens your erections long-term, and why a simple morning trigger could be secretly lowering your testosterone every single week. These aren't myths. They're medical realities I've seen over and over again in my clinic. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to avoid so you can protect not just your health, but your peace of mind. And here's the thing. The final mistake I'll share with you. It's the one even most doctors never mention. But it's also the one quietly responsible for so many of the slow declines older men experience. Loss of drive, random heart flutters, emotional instability. You deserve to know what it is before it's too late, so stay with me. Type 1 in the comments below if you're still watching and ready to take control of your health. If you're unsure or skeptical, type 0. Your honesty helps me improve these videos for men like you. Now, let's begin with the first and perhaps the most dangerously overlooked mistake that could be silently harming older men every single morning. He told me it was just how he started the day every day for over 40 years. Wake up, stretch, then take a few minutes for himself. It brought comfort, a sense of routine, and in his words, it made him feel alive. But what he didn't realize, what so many men don't, is that this quiet habit was slowly wearing down the most important muscle in his body, his heart. You see, as a urologist, I've had far too many conversations that begin with, "I thought I was doing everything right." And unfortunately, morning masturbation is one of the most misunderstood risks for older men. Here's the truth no one talks about. The moment you open your eyes, your body is under silent pressure. It's called the morning surge, a natural spike in blood pressure and heart rate that helps you transition from rest to action. For younger men, this isn't a problem. But for older men, especially those with even mild heart disease or elevated blood pressure, it's a vulnerable window. Add in the physical exertion of masturbation, tightening your muscles, holding your breath, stimulating adrenaline, and you've created a perfect storm. A private moment that can suddenly strain your cardiovascular system far more than you realize. I've sat with men who never made the connection. who didn't understand why they'd feel elated afterward, or why their chest would flutter, or why their energy would crash by mid-morning. It wasn't until we looked deeper at timing, at routine, at the body's natural rhythms, that we saw the link. Masturbating during the peak of the morning surge, before the body has had time to stabilize, can quietly increase the risk of heart strain, arrhythmias, and even sudden cardiac events. It doesn't always happen overnight, but over months and years, this daily tension builds. And for some, the warning signs only appear when it's almost too late. So, if you've been following the same habit for decades, I understand it's comforting. It feels harmless. But at this stage of life, timing matters more than ever. Giving your heart 30 to 45 minutes to stabilize by walking, hydrating, even just sitting in sunlight could mean the difference between long-term health and slow, invisible decline. And the danger doesn't stop at your heart, because the next mistake, it targets your blood sugar, your energy, and your brain function. And most men don't even know what's happening. Let's talk about it. He came into my office looking confused. He said, "Doc, I don't get it. Every morning I feel lightheaded, like I've run a marathon before breakfast, and it's been getting worse." When I asked him to walk me through his routine, he hesitated. Then he admitted he'd been starting most mornings with a few quiet minutes of self-pleasure before eating, before moving, before anything. It's a story I hear far too often. And what these men don't realize is that this seemingly harmless ritual, masturbating on an empty stomach, is quietly draining their energy, wrecking their blood sugar, and leaving their brains gasping for fuel. When you wake up, your body is already running on fumes. Your blood sugar is naturally at its lowest because you haven't eaten for 8 to 10 hours. Your brain and muscles are hungry for energy. Now add in the physical exertion of masturbation, elevated heart rate, muscle contractions, a dopamine surge followed by a hormonal dip, and you've just asked your body to sprint without giving it any fuel. That's why so many older men feel foggy afterward, or shaky, or emotionally off. Some feel like they need a nap an hour after waking. Others say they lose focus for the rest of the day. They blame it on aging, on stress. But more often than not, it's this simple mistake: asking your body to perform a demanding act without giving it the resources it needs to recover. And here's where it becomes more dangerous with age. Older men are more likely to struggle with insulin sensitivity, diabetes, and irregular metabolism, which means even mild drops in blood sugar can have stronger effects, causing dizziness, brain fog, mood swings, and in some cases, fainting. It's not just about comfort, it's about safety. When you ignore this biological truth, you slowly rob your body of balance, leaving yourself more vulnerable each day. So, what's the solution? Something simple. Before you indulge in that morning release, give your body something to work with. Even a small protein snack, a boiled egg, a handful of almonds, half a banana, can stabilize your system, protect your clarity, and prevent that mid-morning crash that's been quietly weighing you down. But while low blood sugar might leave you drained, the next mistake could be even more destructive because it affects not just your energy, but your emotions, your motivation, and your entire sense of well-being. And the worst part, it often hides behind what feels like comfort. Let's take a closer look. He looked at me with a kind of tired honesty I've come to recognize over the years. "I don't even know why I do it anymore, Doc. It's not about pleasure. It's just something to do, something that helps me feel less empty for a little while." That quiet admission shared by a 68-year-old retired teacher has echoed in countless versions from other men I've treated. Morning masturbation for many older men stops being a choice and starts becoming a ritual of emotional escape, a way to cope with the loneliness, the silence, or the ache of a life that feels like it's slowed down too much. But here's the problem. When that moment of release becomes your only tool for managing stress, boredom, or emotional discomfort, it quietly rewires your brain. Dopamine receptors get dulled. Natural drive and ambition fade. Your tolerance for stress weakens, and over time, something subtle but serious begins to shift. You stop feeling truly alive. It becomes harder to find joy in small things. Your motivation dips, your connection to others fades, and you find yourself relying on this private routine not for pleasure but for survival. The real danger isn't just the act itself, it's the emotional dependency it creates. When morning masturbation becomes your default way to regulate mood, it replaces healthier coping mechanisms, movement, social connection, purpose, reflection. It becomes your emotional crutch. And like any crutch used too long, it starts to weaken the rest of you. I've seen men who used to read, write, call friends, take walks, now stuck in a cycle of isolation and quick release. It's not a judgment, it's a reality, one that creeps in slowly until the days all blur together and the mornings feel like a loop you can't break. If this sounds familiar, you're not broken. You're just stuck in a pattern no one taught you how to escape. And the first step is awareness. Ask yourself, why am I doing this today? If the answer isn't joy, love, or healthy release, take a step back. Give your mind and body something else, something better to wake up to. Even a small change done consistently can begin to lift the fog. But while emotional dependency can quietly dull your spirit, the next mistake strikes even deeper because it attacks something every man values but rarely talks about, his prostate. And if you've been ignoring those subtle pelvic warning signs, the damage may already be underway. Let's talk about that next. He never mentioned it at first. Like many men I've treated, he came in for something unrelated, just a routine checkup. But as we spoke, he hesitated, shifted uncomfortably in his seat, and finally said, "Sometimes after in the morning, there's this pressure. Not painful exactly, just strange, and sometimes I still dribble afterward." I thought it was just part of getting older. I hear this far more than I should, and unfortunately, brushing off these signs is one of the most dangerous mistakes older men make, especially when it comes to masturbation in the early hours of the day. You see, during the night, your lower body becomes more stagnant. Blood flow slows, fluids accumulate, and your pelvic region tightens without you realizing it. Then morning comes, and without stretching, movement, or hydration, you stimulate that same sensitive area, sometimes hunched over, sitting on the edge of the bed, tightening your core. In that moment, what you think is a simple act of release is actually putting pressure on your prostate, compressing nerves, and aggravating tissue that's already inflamed from years of buildup. This is how chronic prostatitis begins for many men, not from infection, but from mechanical strain and neglect, that lingering heaviness, that slow urine stream, that twinge after orgasm. It's your body whispering before it starts screaming. And the tragedy is that most men ignore it until it's too late. They accept pelvic pain, dribbling, or frequent nighttime urination as normal, when in fact there are signs of a problem that can spiral into persistent inflammation, painful intimacy, and the slow erosion of sexual confidence. If you're feeling any of these symptoms, don't wait. Stand, stretch, breathe. Create space in your body before any kind of stimulation. And if the discomfort continues, speak up. There's no shame in protecting the core of your manhood. Your prostate doesn't need perfection. It just needs attention, and the earlier you listen, the more power you preserve. But if pain and pressure weren't enough, the final mistake I'm about to reveal goes even deeper into the very thing that fuels your desire, your performance, and your masculinity. And it's something most men don't even realize they're doing wrong every single morning. Let's uncover it together. He told me he didn't know when it started, only that it became a routine early morning before anyone else was awake. Just a few minutes with a screen, a video, an old memory. At first, it felt like control, but over time, something changed. "Doc," he said, "I feel numb now. When I'm with someone, it's like my body doesn't know what to do anymore." His voice cracked a little, and I could tell this wasn't just about performance. It was about something deeper, a quiet erosion of connection. And he's not alone. Many older men fall into this pattern without realizing it. They wake up, reach for stimulation, and turn to the same videos or fantasies day after day, year after year. But here's the truth. What might feel like a private, harmless habit is slowly rewiring the brain. The more your desire becomes tied to artificial or exaggerated fantasy, the harder it becomes for your body to respond to real life. And for men over 60, when testosterone is already declining and sensitivity is already shifting, this habit becomes even more damaging. I've seen it over and over again. Men who can function alone but struggle when it matters most. Not because they've lost interest in their partners, but because their nervous system has been trained to expect something else. Their brain no longer links arousal to closeness, to warmth, to intimacy. It links it to pixels, repetition, and control. That disconnection doesn't just affect sex. It affects confidence, identity, and the quiet joy of being fully present with someone who matters. And here's the part most men don't realize. The longer you depend on fantasy, the more your real-world arousal system atrophies. It's a slow fade, one that you barely notice until it's already taken something from you. But you can take it back. You don't need to quit cold turkey. Just start reconnecting. Breathe, touch, feel, be present in your body again without escaping through a screen or story. Your sensitivity is still there. It just needs a chance to return. Because when your mornings become more about escape than connection, your entire day begins on a foundation of distance. And that distance, if left unchecked, becomes a lifestyle. But now that you know these 5 hidden mistakes, you're already ahead of most. In just a moment, I'll share a final thought, one that could completely shift how you view this part of your health, your identity, and your future. Stay with me. What comes next might be the most important truth of all. When I look back over the hundreds, no, thousands of conversations I've had with men over 60, I see a pattern that breaks my heart. So many of them carry silent questions, silent doubts. They don't ask aloud, but it's there in the hesitation in the way they look away when the topic turns personal. They've lived full lives, raised families, built careers, endured battles most people never see. And yet, when it comes to something as private as masturbation, they feel more alone than ever. No one told them how their bodies would change. No one warned them that what once brought relief could now bring risk. And no one ever gave them permission to talk about it without shame. But here's what I want you to know. The body you have now is not broken. It's just different. It needs care, attention, and timing. And if no one told you until now, that's not your fault. It's the silence that has failed you, not your choices. But today, that silence ends. Because the truth is, these 5 morning masturbation mistakes, timing, blood sugar, emotional reliance, ignoring symptoms, and overuse of fantasy, are not about morality or guilt. They're about biology. They're about protecting your heart, your brain, your prostate, and your connection to the world around you. You deserve more than quick habits and quiet regret. You deserve mornings filled with clarity, strength, and a sense of ownership over your body, not confusion or fatigue. And the good news is, it's never too late to change. With a few mindful adjustments, you can continue to enjoy this part of your life safely, confidently, and with the kind of self-respect that only comes from truly understanding your body's needs. So, if any part of this message spoke to you today, if you saw yourself in even one of these 5 patterns, then I encourage you to take just one small step this week. Maybe it's waiting a little longer after waking. Maybe it's stretching before you start. Maybe it's talking to someone you trust. Whatever it is, take that step. You're not alone and you're not past your prime. You're just entering a chapter that asks for more care and offers deeper rewards in return. If this resonated with you, type 1 in the comments to let me know you're with me. And if you're still watching, thank you. That says a lot about the kind of man you are.